I think the greatest thing the Royal Court ever did was the Athol Fugard season in 1974. They did three plays, three anti-apartheid plays, the most famous of which is Sizwe Banzi is Dead, The Island, and Statements Regarding Under Arrest. And two of them had John Carney, who was, as great an actor as I've ever seen on a stage. And they were blazing hot political theatre, fresh from South Africa, anti-apartheid plays that were both wonderful as plays and incredible as politics. And that's when I think that they were the best things I ever saw at the Royal Court. And the Royal Court, in my view, completely fulfilling what its purpose is, which is to tell the world about things it doesn't know about. You could see the history of the Royal Court as a history of partnerships. In other words, John Osborne clearly with Tony Richardson, with George Devine, Edward Bond with William Gaskell, Max Stafford Clark, Carol Churchill, Stephen Daldry with Sarah Kane. And at these times, when the artistic director of the theatre is saying, this is the most important voice of the time, listen to this voice, that's when the Royal Court fires on every piston. When you feel the weight of the theatre behind somebody who they think is uniquely important to the culture at that moment. And then, even more important, they disseminate that person abroad. Remember, from the very beginning, this theatre went abroad. It went to Moscow, it went to Italy. It was always part of the mission of this theatre to say, this is the important British writer, now let's get them done all over the world. This theatre has an extraordinary record of uncovering the most important writers of the day. And that's what it's here for, discovering them and then propagating them, those two things, and moving them into popularity. And that may come about by different routes. Sarah Kane will never be performed in the West End, or she hasn't been performed in the West End hitherto. Maybe she will one day. But she's nevertheless a very famous writer through universities, teachers, students. That's also a way of propagating. But unless those writers who break out of the little world of theatre and into the mainstream of the culture, if the Royal Court doesn't go on discovering those writers, it will have no role in the future. In 1975, I wrote a play called Teeth and Smiles, in which Helen Mirren played the leader, the singer, with a rock band. And I think it may have been the first time rock music shook that auditorium to the rafters. And Helen was playing a very, exciting rock chick in the play. And it was a very hot summer, 1975, and punk was just starting down the King's Road. Vivienne Westwood and Malcolm McLaren had just opened the shop Sex. So these people would be coming down the King's Road dressed in this unbelievable way, in a way we'd never seen people dressed. And I'd be sitting having a pint of beer on the steps of the Royal Court Theatre, and the sun was shining, and behind me I could hear the auditorium shaking to the rock band, and the plaster was falling off this building. And that was very, very exciting. I'd say that was one of the happiest summers of my life. If the Royal Court didn't exist, I wouldn't hesitate to shoot the Minister of Culture through the temple.